Hi everybody. Hopefully you'll have seen most of the content on this slide already, but in case you haven't, I'll just give it a very quick run through. So this is just an overview of changes for reprocessors and exporters under PPR. There is now a new mandatory registration requirement. The deadline to register was the 1st of October. That would be in time for January 2026. So if you haven't registered, please do so as soon as you possibly can. It is deemed to be non-compliant. Don't register. Accreditation remains voluntary. Again, we recommend that if you want to issue PERNs and PRNs from the 1st of January 2026, it's best to apply for accreditation by 1st of October. So again, that deadline, we are aware, has passed, and would just encourage you to apply as quickly as possible if you do want that accreditation. Hopefully you'll have seen or heard about the new charging structure, which does increase the charges. That hopefully gives us the ability to increase our resource for those thorough assessment checks and compliance monitoring. There is more detailed and increased frequency in reporting. Reporting is now quarterly for registered operators and monthly for accredited operators. That hopefully gives us sufficient data to identify trends and anomalies more quickly and be a little more proactive in addressing things where we can. And then there are also the improved conditions of accreditation as well. You'll see a few guidance pages listed on the bottom of the slide there. We are building up our guidance to offer everybody as much support as possible. These pages provide the most up-to-date information, and we do welcome any feedback that you have on those. We do take it into account, and we will try and make changes where we can or provide some supplementary guidance if that's required. We've got the main guidance page as a good overview, the applications for 2026 guidance page, and forms linked from there as well, and then the sampling inspection plan supplementary guidance page, and that's got the sampling and inspection plan templates there as well. All those on there. Just as an update, we have had a good number of applications in so far. Are working on those to get them assessed as quickly as possible. Next, please. We are hosting a webinar. This is a joint webinar with DEFRA and regulators. It's in a week's time on the 11th of November. I don't know if anyone's able to just pop the sign up link in the chat. That would be great if possible. You can register at that link. We plan to cover a bit of background and a walkthrough of the summary log, a bit on raising and issuing PRNs, and then also how you'll be able to log into the digital service. Hopefully that'll be a really useful session for everybody. So if you are interested in that, please do go ahead and sign up. You can also submit questions for that webinar when you register. We'll try and cover those questions in the webinar content or during the webinar question time, and anything that we don't answer on the day will be followed up later. And then just as an additional note, that webinar will be recorded as well. So if you can't attend, there will be a recording of it made available afterwards. Next slide, please. So we have recently updated and published the enforcement and sanctions policy. Again, there is a link on the slide for that. On the first bullet point, Annex 4 details how we will use new powers under the Environment Act 2021 to take civil action. That means we are now able to impose civil sanctions for contraventions of the regulations. These could include imposing a compliance notice, a fixed monetary penalty, or a variable monetary penalty, or we can accept an offer of a enforcement undertaking. Civil sanctions under PPR will be the civil burden of proof, so that means balance of probability rather than the criminal burden of proof, which is beyond reasonable doubt. Hopefully I've explained that fairly clearly. Essentially, this just expands our options for dealing with breaches of the regulations, and hopefully will speed up the process of an enforcement response where that is deemed appropriate. On the second bullet point, we can still use warnings, formal cautions, and prosecution as each case sort of severity escalates. Just to say, we do retain the ability to pursue criminal sanctions for offences under the regulations. So that essentially means prosecution, and we will do so where certain considerations are met. But as per the policy, we'll pursue civil sanctions for most cases. And then moving on to the third bullet point, enforcement undertakings. Just to reiterate, we will still consider those to address non-compliance. So summarising here, our updated enforcement and sanctions policy and Annex 4 clearly set out our approaches to enforcement under PPR. It would be great if you're able to read that policy. It lays out the results we want to achieve and the enforcement and sanction options available to us, and how we make decisions around those. So hopefully it would give you all a really good understanding. That's it from me. Over to Virginia for the next slide, I think.
Thank you very much, Zoe. That was really helpful. I mean, kind of on the back of our enforcement and sanctions policy, as we said, so that's just Environment Agency. But, you know, these are dealing with people who are non-compliant. So for us, these are free riders. So we are continuously bringing free riders into compliance. Our first port of call is to bring people into compliance before having to go down those enforcement routes. And we've done that quite successfully so far, but we'll continue to do so. We have got specialised teams. So we've got the free rider team who are working on, you know, detecting waste fraud through the intelligence-led that we, you know, investigations. So we get intel from industry, from yourselves, we get intel from other regimes and things like that, so we're constantly following up on the intel that we've provided. We have got a civil sanctions team, so again, those people who are going to be implementing that enforcement and sanctions policy and handle those cases of non-compliance where deemed necessary. And we'll always take our enforcement action in line with that enforcement and sanctions policy, which is why we needed to update it to reflect the new options and tools open to us under PPR. If you do suspect a business isn't complying with the regulations, so whether that's a producer, a compliance scheme, a reprocessor or an exporter, so these are all people who are obligated under the regulations. If you do suspect someone may not be complying, we really welcome intel from external persons. So please report that to the appropriate regulator. If they reside in England, then please come to the Environment Agency. And as you can see, there are the other regulators on there as well. There is a 24-hour telephone service, and there is Crime Stoppers for anonymous. So if you want it to be completely anonymous, you can go through the Crime Stoppers route. So again, we'll probably get these links posted in the chat as well. And we do cover this in most of these forums, so you may have seen this message before, but I think it's really important. This is a continuous process. We want to make sure there's a level playing field. So yeah, that's why we'll always encourage people to continue to come forward. Go to the next slide, please. The recycling obligation. So I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the disposal fee obligation under PEPR. So that's the invoices that recently went out from PAC UK outlined your notice of liability, for your disposal fees. But obviously there is a continuation of the recycling obligation, which covers all your supplied packaging. So you'll need to fulfill those. So large producers need to fulfill those obligations by purchasing PRNs or PERNs, which is something that was under the 2007 regulations for packaging as well. You'll need to do this for your 2025 obligation. You'll need to fulfill that by the end of January in 2026. If you are registered directly, you need to purchase those PRNs and PERNs for each material type individually. If you're a member of a compliance scheme, your scheme will do this on your behalf. As I say, there is a deadline. This needs to be done by the end of January. So we just want to make sure people remember that this is an obligation under these regulations. You can buy PERNs and PRNs through accredited UK waste reprocessor exporters. And then you can also go through PRN trading platforms. So it's just a reminder to please ensure that you comply with your obligations in relation to recycling obligation. If we go on to the next slide, please. Resubmissions, following the notice of liabilities that came out from PAC UK, we have had quite a few people get in touch with us asking about resubmissions and correcting invoices or the notice of liabilities. If your data is incorrect, you have an obligation to resubmit your data onto the RPD service to correct it. If you're a member of a scheme, your scheme will do this on your behalf. There is a resubmission fee for direct and for scheme members. And if you do, but in terms of notice of liabilities, if you are doing a resubmission and you anticipate a big change in your disposal fee obligation, you need to contact the EPR help desk. which will put you through to PAC UK. So you know the numbers up there on the screen, or you can email them. This does, obviously they had extended hours during October, but now it's November, they've gone back to regular hours for the help desk. But please do get in touch with PAC UK if you think it's going to materially change, and they'll be able to advise you. The regulators will just tell you to do the same if you contact us about your invoices. So I just to save you a job. If you want to go on to the next slide, please. I don't know if everyone is aware on this this call, but I know colleagues from DEFRA Policy will be talking about this shortly. But the amending regulations were laid in Parliament yesterday, so they are now publicly available. In those amending regulations, which come into force from the 1st of January, there will be an increase in regulator fees. The current fees, registration fees, etc., they cover the regulatory costs of regulating the EPR system. The increases reflect some increased duties that we have and increased operational requirement costs. So all that information will be available on gov.uk shortly, but they are available on the face of the regs as well. And yeah, so you'll see an increase in fees, and they come into force from the 1st of January. So all fees paid after the 1st of January will be the increased fee rather than the current fee. So I think that's the end of my segment.